What's good, everybody? Y'all are coming with me on a little midnight stroll since I have to be up. We're at the emergency room right now. My girl is. Initially, we thought it might be some complications with the pregnancy, but it's not. And yes, you heard that right. We're pregnant. We've been pregnant for a couple weeks now. I suppose now is a good time as any to share that information. I'm just kind of a private person, I'm not going to make a whole spiel out of it and try to, you know, get a bunch of views and all that stuff. It's just something that, means something to me because as far as we knew, we couldn't. That's as far as we knew. She couldn't anymore, or at least that's what she thought. And to be perfectly honest, I've been with a handful of women in my life, and not one of them has ever gotten close. We got a chick hissing at me over there. Crazy. There's wild people out here. You never know. You just never know who you will come across. Literally hissing to interrupt me. She just went into that parking ramp over there, but I forgot where I was. But anyways, she had some pain, right? Some cramps, some pain. And it was about this afternoon sometime, so I left work and I took her there. Took her to the ER. And I always hated the ER. I've always hated the ER. It's never been good. Anytime we've ever had to come there, it's never for anything good. But she's been waiting for an MRI this entire time. I guess whoever was in there before her keeps on moving, so they have to start over or whatever. I don't know. It's been hours. She's been waiting to take this MRI for fucking hours now. And I really, we've already been reassured. It's got nothing to do with the baby, so that's good. But now it's something for her. Is it appendix related, or is it just severe cramping, severe gas? Whatever. But truth of the matter is it's still scary, right? It's still scary not knowing. It's got to be scary. Oh, I remember where I was going now. Yeah, not one girl I've ever been with has ever even remotely gotten close to getting pregnant by me. Not one of them. And I was young. I was in my 20s. I had money. I was healthy looking. And I had a little bit of a name for myself. So the handful of girls that I was with up until that, up until I was 20, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. No protection, just wilding out. Fast life. Not one of them got pregnant, or even late. To be completely honest, that's just as well for me because I had no business having a kid. I had no business having a kid, and I'm so glad that I didn't before I went to prison. Which would have been really ironic because that's pretty much my life story, right? I had a father that went to prison, and I didn't know him for the first 10 years of my life. But that's not your usual run-of-the-mill, trash ball father, piece of shit, deadbeat, all that shit. It's not the story here. My mom kept my birth and her conception of me a complete secret from him. And he didn't know. And she just legit was going to do it herself. I think she had, well enough intentions to begin with, but it became too much. Life throws curveballs at you, and you just never know. And she was debilitated by trauma almost immediately. Almost fucking immediately. But my father, it's always kind of funny, as much as they go out of their way to shield us from the truth and to hide, their transgressions from us. I still found out about my father through his siblings, my uncles and my aunts. They absolutely adored, their oldest brother. They absolutely adored him. They looked up to him. He was the shit. He was, he was a little bit of a slinger himself. When he was a teenager, bought himself a brand new Trans Am for like $900. Back then, that was like, it's like going and get a $50,000 car off the lot, brand new today. Brand new Trans Am from that day, for that day and age. What, 85, 86, something like that. And on top of that, he was a fighter. He taught himself how to fight for real. And people used to pay him. People used to pay him to kick people's asses for them. Give them a couple $100, give them an ounce of weed, little stuff here and there. It's the Burleigh County Courthouse. Spent many a night there. Terrible, terrible fucking jail to be in. Absolutely terrible. But yeah, they told me about that, right? And whether he likes it or not, I, in all my wisdom of 15, 16 years of age, wanted to be just like him. I wanted people to whisper about me behind my back just like that. That's where, regardless of their intentions, the life has a way. Life has a way of still bringing shit around full circle. And he was a medicine man. He walked the red road. He was sober. He had a really bad fight with somebody and gave him a life-ending fucking Bruce Lee kick to the head. I'm not sure. I never did get the actual, details of the situation, but from what I heard, my dad, literally sidekicked somebody. I don't know if their head snapped off of something or if it was just purely off the impact, but he got like 10 years for manslaughter. And so he went to prison. And it was while he was in prison that he met somebody that would change his life. If I really want to, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say his name was John. I'm pretty sure his name was John. And he has hours and hours of tapes of this guy talking to himself while he was in prison. And he was a medicine man, walked the red road too, and all that, had a full blown, turning a leaf or whatever. And man made an impact on him that would forever change his life. And my father was never the same. I've never seen my dad cry for any other reason, probably aside from his mother, which I didn't even get to personally see for myself, but I can only imagine he did. But I seen him cry for this man who was more than a father for him. I remember we went to the funeral. I remember my dad gave a eulogy for him too. But he would get out, he would go on with his life. He'd meet a young, pretty Assiniboine Sioux out of Montana. They'd get married, and he'd find himself at a powwow. And he ran into somebody that was one of my mom's party buddies, and he had a picture of me. And he told him, he said, "Hey, yeah, I seen your son. Looks just like you." My dad was like, "I ain't got no son. I think I'd know that, I think I'd know if I had a son." He's like, no, no, you got a son. I got a picture. I got a picture of him in my car. She gave me one to give to you, let you know that you have a son, and you need to come and get him. She lost him to social services. He's bouncing around in foster homes right now. There's some fucked up foster homes out there, man. Holy shit. There's some fucked up foster homes out there. Terrible. People that got no business with kids, let alone their own kids. I've walked in on foster parents' own biological kids molesting each other. Ugh. I was just trying to come and get you guys for dinner. You carry on, Don't mind me. Don't let me fucking, you know, break up y'all's rhythm here. I'll be on my way. I'll see my way out. Crazy shit. Saw another pair of kids fucking molesting their sheep. Some straight up real live goat fuckers or whatever the fuck, sheep fuckers. Crazy, crazy shit. Bad things happen, people, in homes that don't belong to them. But yeah, so my dad followed this guy to his car, him and his wife, and he showed him the picture of me. And my stepmom, Lucy, was the first one to say something. She looked at him, she looked at the picture, and she said, "Yep, that's your son." It was that obvious. Even when I was 10 years old, it was that fucking obvious. But yeah, shit's crazy. I gave my old man a lot of problems. I gave him a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Got our house robbed. I was, known for carjacking and car shopping and home invasions. That shit came full circle. They came to my house and robbed us for everything we had one day. I was pissed. Oh, I was hella pissed, but I knew who did it. The kids I grew up with that literally lived one trailer away from me. We were all down in South Dakota, and I was helping my dad prepare for a hamletcha, which means a vision quest in Lakota. And he would go up onto the hill for 4 days and 4 nights with nothing but a chanupa and a buffalo robe. So those of you who are familiar with the process, this whole ritual, you'll know it's hard. It's hard to do. No water, no food, no sleep. You just sit there and suffer for your people and pray for your people. Pray for strength, understanding, wisdom. Sometimes they bring you messages, sometimes they bring you bits of songs. Sometimes they tell you where to go, what to offer. I was scared to death to do that shit. I never did. Never did. But yeah, I was down there helping him prepare to do something really, really hard and selfless. And my actions were getting our house robbed as we spoke. I had a girlfriend at the time too. Real pretty white girl. Her name was Tamra. And she was so far out of my league, it wasn't even funny. I think I asked her out for about a year straight before she finally said yes. Yeah, you got to be persistent, but not in a creepy way. And apparently that's really hard for a lot of people to do, but I was endearing about it, It became an inside joke for us, actually. I'm not going to go into all that, but the fact of the matter is she was a straight A student, honor roll, didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't do drugs. And on top of all that, she was a Jehovah's Witness. And her parents absolutely despised the idea her being with me. I understood that. I definitely didn't blame him. I looked exactly like what I was. I was a fucking hooligan. I was just a straight hooligan. Big baggy pants, dark hoodies, stocking cap, hand poke tattoos on my hands and shit. I was like one of the only, 15, 16-year olds walking around with hand tattoos and shit. I was giving my friends stick and poke tattoos. Funny that now I'm a professional tattoo artist, but yeah, it was tough going. You know, I remember there was a lot of pressure, a lot of social pressure. I was stepping out of my class, right? My caste, the caste system. She was at the top of the food chain, and I was a lowly nobody according to everybody else, right? Dirty Indian, prairie nigger. That's what they say. That's what they call us in this area. We are the N words. But yeah, we ended up going out. She asked me out on Christmas, and they don't celebrate holidays, but that was my Christmas present to me. She came up to me against her father's wishes, and basically told him I love him. That's all there is to it. If you don't like it, then kick me out. They tried grounding her from the phone and all types of shit every time she got caught talking to me. Shit's crazy, but I was a piece of work. You know, I was a real piece of work. I was gonna smoke. I was gonna smoke weed. I was gonna drink. I was gonna fight. I was gonna do all those things, even though I promised her that I wouldn't partake in any of those things. And at the time, when I made the promise, I meant it. Because at that point in time, she was pretty much my everything. You know, the world was bearable when I was in her presence. Everything else all around me was falling apart, right? My dad was losing custody of me. I had lost contact with my mom. They had changed the number. My stepmom had done that. They changed the number on her, and she doesn't have an address or a phone that I can get in contact with her because she's pretty much homeless, schizophrenic, and just it was bad. I was flunking all my grades. I had all these charges fucking racking up. I was just a mess. Right? I was a hot fucking mess. But she was the only good thing that was in my life. She was the one thing that made me feel like everything was still going to be okay. And she did wonders. She made me walk away from fights. She made me stay home and not get high and not drink. I was willing to do those things because, it made me feel good to know that I was doing something that meant something to her. But I don't know how she did it. I really don't. I don't know how she tolerated me because I'd go out and I end up getting drunk, doing some crazy shit, getting into a fight. I'd come to school and have to explain myself and shit. But to tie all this stuff together and to bring it to why being in an emergency room at night, how all that ties in is how we broke up. And how we broke up was really fucked up. And I was already touching on this before I, switched the story up and went a different direction. But while I was down in South Dakota helping my dad prepare for his vision quest, some kids I knew were robbing my house. And when I returned home with my grandma brought me back by herself. We came a couple days before my dad would return. And when we got to the house, I come walking up the steps and I get to the porch door and I go to fucking put the key in the doorknob, and I notice that it just pushes open, right? And the whole door jamb where the door locks and everything clicks together was shattered outward. And so I stopped, and my grandma was coming up behind me, and I said, "Hey, Grandma," I said, get back in the car and start it real quick. I said, wait for me. And she's like, why? What's wrong? I was like, our door's kicked in. She was like, that's crazy. Who would do that? I was like, I don't know, Grandma, but I need you to get back in the car, start it, and get ready to leave. She was like, okay. She turned around and she jumped back into the car. I grabbed this big ass pipe that we used to, for the jack, a car jack. It's like a big old 4 feet piece of tube, metal tube. And I turn on the porch light, and I could see a boot mark on our inside door. Perfect black boot mark. So I go inside and I look, TV's gone, computer's gone, shark fin's gone. My stepmom's, all her expensive sewing machines, sergers and all that stuff, everything she used to make her jingle dresses and beadwork and stuff for other people, all that's gone. All our stereos are gone and stuff. Because somebody who was, big shit drug dealer down in Lincoln got robbed. But whoever robbed him, it wasn't me. But when he put the word out and he said, I'll give whoever finds my shit, I'll give them an ounce of coke to whoever finds my shit. And I was known. I was known for the guy who, if you wanted, a pair of Alpine 6x9s and some Rockford Fosgate amps and some fucking, 12-inch Eclipse speakers, I was the guy to come to. I knew exactly where to go to get it. I knew exactly how to fucking get into the cars. I knew how to do all that shit. I was the guy. So somebody, fuck it, I'll say his name. His name was Kyle Clayton. Piece of shit. Probably still is. I almost put my life on it. But he pops up and he says, hey, I think I know who's got your shit. But I'm going to need a little bit of that up front, for recruitment purposes. So he gets this guy to front him some dope. And he goes and he starts asking around, right? He starts asking around for some help. He wants help to break into my house, to come with him. Violate the security of my house and home. He goes to my 2 best friends and asks them. He thought that they would agree because I'm just a dirty Indian. Nobody really likes me anyway. Nobody really wants me at their parties anyway. Well, my best friends had something to say. They told him, fuck that, fuck you, get the fuck out of our house. And so he left. When I got home and I saw that my house was desecrated, I went straight over to their house because I knew if something happened, they'd probably seen it. And they did. I went in there and the names were Mitch and Matt. I've known them since I was 10 years old. And I went in there and I said, hey, my house is fucking kicked in and all my shit's missing. Do you guys know anything? And Mitch says, yeah, I do. I said, what happened? And he said, Kyle broke into your house. He took your shit. And I said, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you're positive? He's like, dude, I wouldn't lie. I swear on everything. I was like, how do you know? I need to be sure, dude. I said, I need you to be fucking sure because I'm going above and beyond at this point. It's like, I need to know. How do you know? And he said, because he asked me. And I said, no. I said, that's good enough for me. It would end up being a couple weeks before I found him. He was laying low. He brought that guy all the shit that he had took from my house, and I guess the guy was happy enough with that, so he gave him quite a bit. It wasn't his shit, so he didn't get the full ounce, but he paid him for his troubles. I guess the guy was just going to have to be happy with getting what he could for what he could get for my property. It was a couple weeks before I caught him. Where I caught him happened to be on the same street that my girlfriend's parents lived. The thing about that is I had a friend who lived across the street from my ex-girlfriend. Well, she's my girlfriend at this point, but I was going to this guy's house for years before I ever really started paying attention to the girl across the street. We had classes together and stuff, but it wasn't much. He had a younger brother. He'd come over there. He'd ride bikes. We had a four-wheeler. We had jumps. We had all types of stuff, right? We would just straight up take over the street. We would take that fucking street over. Cars would have to wait for us to finish up doing whatever we're doing before they could pass. I'm talking like a whole mess of kids, like 10, 15 kids, all from the same little suburbia area. And my friend's name was Tyler. And his mom was cool. His mom wanted to adopt me at the time. She thought I was like, she thought I was like in a real fucked up home or something, always let me stay over, always let me eat and stuff. She adored me. She absolutely adored me. And, her son, we were cool. We were hella cool. He's doing good today. I still talk to him and stuff. Comment on his posts here and there on Facebook and stuff. I was down at his house and I was kicking it. And because it's such a popular spot, everybody who's kind of, in that area always kind of passes through, stops, fucks around on one of the bikes, kicks a couple kick flips, smokes a cigarette, whatever, then take off. We weren't into too much, not that group. I was probably the worst thing that was in that particular group of friends. I was. I was the worst kid in that group of friends right there. But we were all down at his house and we were kicking it. And by then, every fucking kid, and I'm talking anywhere from 8, 9-year-old kids to 15, 16-year-old kids. I think we were the oldest. Me, Tyler, my girlfriend across the street. We were like the oldest kids around that area at that time. But I remember we were standing inside of Tyler's garage. We were working on his four-wheeler. And of all these little, all my little proteges, they came racing up on their bikes. And they were like, Kyle's coming, Kyle's coming. Kyle's coming down the street. He's on foot. He's by himself, And I was like, hell yeah, it is go time. So I got a whole fucking flock of kids, right? I come walking out of the garage on a mission. And all these kids are they're following me like I'm the Pied Piper. They want to see some action, right? They all knew that something was going to happen, but I think everybody's excited for that to happen until it actually happens, and then everybody starts screaming. That's exactly what happened. I go racing up to him. He doesn't know that I know. He doesn't think that, Mitch and Matt would turn him out like that. He really didn't. So I came walking up to him, and he was walking, and he had a mouthful of sunflower seeds, and he had a bag full of sunflower seeds in his hand. And he was spitting them out, and he was talking to me, and he was like, hey, what's up, man? I'm like, not much, man. How you been? He's like, oh, I'm good, this and that, and blah, 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 blah. And we talked for a little bit, and I said, hey, man, my house got broken into. He goes, yeah, man, I heard about that, man. That's pretty fucked up. I said, yeah, it is, man. And he's like, yeah, man, I heard about that. I was just like, damn, that's crazy. What'd they all take? And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, I didn't have the type of, temperament that I have now. I can't play with my food before I eat it. I was just doing everything I could to not stop, to keep myself from just socking him in the mouth right then and there, because I already know he's lying to me. That's the thing that pissed me off the most, was that you're lying to my face right now, So I said, I think you know. And he's like, no, man, no, I just heard about it the other day. I said, so you don't know? I said, you don't know who did it? And he's like, no, I don't. And I'm looking at him, I was like, Kyle, I said, I'm going to give you one more chance, bro. I said, do you know who took my shit? I got all these kids, they're all standing, they got a whole circle around us. They're all standing there quietly, my silent guardians. And he's like, nah, man, if I did, I wish I would. If I did, I'd tell you, man, but, I don't. And I'm like, all right. And I looked away, and all of a sudden I was like, bah! I just socked him as hard as I fucking could. I remember just seeing sunflower seeds just spray out of his fucking mouth. And I grabbed him by his t-shirt, and I said, lie to me again. I said, lie to me again. He's like, oh, no, no, man. He starts spitting out blood and fucking sunflower seeds. And he's like, no, I don't. I swear to God, I don't. And I hit him again. Bam! I socked him hard as fuck. And I said, lie to me again. Lie to me fucking again. He was like, all right. He goes, I don't know who took it, but he goes, but I can get your stuff back. I could probably get your stuff back. And I hit him again. Bam! Hard as shit. And I said, you fucking did it, man. You took my shit. You stole from me. By then, he was just all blood, all the way down his shirt. And he was like, all right. He's like, I did, I took it. He goes, but on some serious shit, he goes, I could probably get some of it back, but he goes, a lot of it's already gone. And then I remember the kids told me that a car was coming. So we all like broke up and started to walk away, try to look casual and shit. And once I did that, Kyle took off running. He started sprinting, right? He just took off like a bat out of hell. And that just pissed me off. That just pissed me all the way off at that point. I took off running. And he couldn't get more than a block away from me. I caught up to him and I tackled him. We tussled on the ground for a second, and then I ended up in a mounted position. I'm on top of him and I'm just pounding him. I'm literally just fucking hammer fisting his face, everything. Like I'm completely getting consumed by my anger at this point. Like everything's coming out. Everything that's wrong with my life, everything, all the tension between me and my dad, being blamed. He knew it was my fault. He knew it was either my friends or bringing people over or something I did, owing somebody money, something like that. He knew, just off the rip, he knew that it was my fault. And I knew it was my fault. Even at that age, I knew exactly why that had happened. I was so mad. And all that was coming out on him, and I was just hitting him. Just bah, bah, bah. It was just wet smacking sounds. Blood was splattering everywhere. And I remember that everybody started grabbing me. They were like, hold on, stop. And they were trying to grab me. They were grabbing my shirt. And I was pushing them off me. And I was jerking my arms away from them and shit. And I was like, get the fuck off me. And I kept hitting them, just blasting them. Boom, boom, boom. And I just remember they were pissing me off, like, let go of me. I'm justified in this. I have the right to do this. I caught him. He admitted it to it. He was lying to my face. Why do I not have the right to do this? Get the fuck off me. Stop trying to stop me. Stop trying to prevent me, from this. And at some point in time, somebody jumped on my back and they put their arms over my neck like that. And I had had enough. I didn't know who it was. I didn't care. I didn't give a fuck. I reached back and I grabbed him by the shirt and I pulled him over. Bah! I slammed him right on top of fucking Kyle. Imagine my surprise when I realized it was my girlfriend. She was the passing car. She was the one that broke up the fight momentarily. Her and her parents, they were either coming or going. I never caught which, but she made them stop, got out of the car and ran down the street after us. And it was like, she was one of the days that she was going to the, I don't know what they call it, the Jehovah Hall, wherever they meet, their church. They were either coming or going to there. So she was in a nice shirt, really long dress, like some flats, some dress shoes of some kind. I just remember it looked ridiculous the way I had her flopped on the ground, her legs sticking out, her shirt balled up in my fist. It took me a second to realize what I was looking at. It really did. Because I was already full blown, just letting it go, I just let myself go to it. And so it took a second for me to process that I had my girlfriend's shirt balled up in my hand and I have her splayed out on top of my fucking enemy and I'm splattered in blood from my fucking fist all the way up to my face. I'm splattered in this kid's blood. And he just looks a mess. He's just a fucking complete mess. And I picked her up and I didn't know what else to do, so I turned around and I started walking away. And she followed me. And she kept trying to get me to stop. She was like, hey, stop. She's like, stop. Talk to me. You know, what is going on? Where the fuck have you been? Like, you just disappear and you don't say nothing for, weeks. And I just catch you, out in the middle of the street beating this kid's ass. And I said, he broke into my house. And she was like, and? And I'm like, what do you mean, and? And she was like, that's no excuse. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. So I was like, he admitted to it and everything, And she's like, then call the cops. And I was like, call the cops. Like, what the fuck are they going to do? It's like, no, I'm not calling the cops. And we went back and forth. And, we didn't leave off on the best of terms, but we walked away from each other. And I returned to school the next day. And when I returned to school, it was very tense. She didn't kiss me back. She didn't hug me back. She wouldn't pull away either. I didn't get any notes between every class like I normally did. I got one note at the end of the day, like the last whatever they call it, the next moment to get to your next class. And it said that we needed to talk. We needed to talk. And I would meet up with her that night, about 8, 9 o'clock at night. And to make the long story short, I forgot. I remember I asked her if she was afraid of me. And she said that for the first time since she has known me, she saw what everybody had been warning her about. And she was one of my most stout defenders. She would tell everybody, you don't know him like I do. I don't see what you see. He's not who he is with you when he's with me. And that was true. But everybody had warned her, don't mess with him. Don't mess with him. He's trouble. He's dangerous. He's got issues. They were telling the truth. And for the first time, she just got a taste of that. And she said she would never forget laying on the ground, looking up at me and seeing the anger that I had and looking at my bloody fist raised above my head. As she said, for just a second, she thought I was going to hit her. She thought I would. I just remember, I knew, I knew I had to break up with her. I had to let her go. That right there, at that moment, that night, as much as I wanted to keep her, as much as I knew that she wasn't going to suggest we break up, I asked her, I said, are you afraid of me? And she said, yes. I didn't say, okay, then, well, it's over. Okay, well, we're breaking up or whatever. I didn't say anything. I was just quiet for a second. And then I pulled her in for a hug. And she kind of hugged me back. And she stepped away. And when I stepped back away from her, I said, hey, don't be a stranger. And she just smiled. And I tried to really be cool about it. I really did. I tried to be really okay. I understand. I know. I fucked up. I'll accept that. When I told her don't be a stranger, just saying, okay, you can go. Don't act like you don't know me, you know? Don't act like you don't know me between classes now. She smiled. She gave me the first real kiss I've had in a couple days from her. And we walked away from each other. I went straight home after that. And I went to my stepmom's dresser in her room. They were gone. They were off at a powwow or something like that. This is weeks. This is weeks after, that all had taken place. But yeah, I went straight to her dresser and I pulled out her muscle relaxers. She had a bottle of them, 18 of them. I almost want to say it was cyclobenzaprine. I think that's it. I don't think I'll ever forget that word. Cyclobenzaprine. I think they were skeletal muscle relaxers or something like that. I figured I didn't really, it wasn't intentional at first. I grabbed her pill bottle and I took it to my room and I took 2 of them right away. Drank some orange juice. Then I was sitting there and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go hard. I'm gonna take 2 more. Fuck her. She's gonna know. She's gonna know for sure now that I've been dipping into it. But fuck it. What is she gonna do? What is she gonna say? She couldn't say anything to me at that time. I'd already caught her with some shit she wasn't supposed to have in my dad's house anyway. So we were at a standstill. We hated each other. Make no mistake, we hated each other. But yeah. I had decimated the side of somebody's car on the way back. My friends were walking with me. And I went like fucking Honda from Street Fighter on the side of this car, man. I busted the fucking side of the window. I busted off the side mirror. I literally dented the fucking door with my bare hands. I had streaks of skin streaking all down the side of this person's paint job, and my hand was fucked up. It was busted up bad. And so I'm sitting there and I got a frozen bag of vegetables on my hand. Got 4 of my stepmom's muscle relaxers in my system already, and I'm listening to fucking Korn full blast. And I thought to myself, what if I just take the rest of these pills right here, right now? What if I just take them all? Fuck it. I ain't got to deal with none of this shit no more. My parents had come home to find a dead body in here. That'll show them. That'll teach them. Then everybody will know. Then they'll really know. I wasn't playing. And with that whole train of thought, I did. I grabbed the pill bottle and I dumped them all out. And even at like 16 years of age, 15 or 16 years of age, I remember knowing that most people, when they do something irrevocable like that, they realize in the last moments that they actually want to live. And they regret it and they panic and they have just, a lot of fear. A lot of fear starts, the fear to live consumes them afterwards. I've seen it. I've seen it before. I didn't have that. I didn't have that at all. I took all the pills and drank them down, and I just chain smoked until I don't remember anything. I remember going to ash my cigarette, and my hand just flopped. And I knocked the ashtray over and everything. And I was like, oh shit, that's fucked up. I couldn't, all this, smoking a cigarette, flicking the ash, I couldn't do that. My hand was already done for. I got up, I tried to get up off, I had a little swivel chair in my room, like a little recliner. I got up off that and I flopped over onto my bed. And I laid on my back and I remember thinking, fuck you, fuck the world, peace out, I'm out this bitch. That's the last thing I remember. I come to, I'm in the hospital, and I'm sitting, I don't know what I'm sitting on. I just know I'm sitting and I'm looking up at this blazing white fucking fluorescent light. And I was being forced to drink the rest of this chalk-like mixture, charcoal. I was saved. Somebody who has never, ever been in the habit of coming over to my house, let alone letting himself in, did just that. His name was Justin. And him and his brother had moved up from Nevada with their parents. They were both some real live, they were some gangsters. Nevada definitely had Bloods down there, and they came up and they brought that style, that mentality, that, all that. They wore, real nice, kind of like Ben Davis shirts that were like all ironed and pressed, and khakis with the fucking creases and stuff, and bandanas, and they had a whole different swag to them. I gravitated towards them. That was my dude, right? Justin was my dude. And he saw me walking around earlier that day, so he was going to make it a point to come over and kick it with me. And he said that him and his brother were kicking it in their room, and they lived right across the street from where my best friends live. And I live, further down the street. So he saw me come home with my friends, and he saw my friends part ways with me, and they went to their house, and I went further down. So he got ready, and he must have been about 45 minutes later, he made his way over to my house. So he knew I was home. He knew I was in there. And he knocked on the door, and when he went to push on the door, it just, it swung open. And so he was like, what the fuck? And then when he peeked into the fucking porch, our little shed, our entry shed, he saw the boot mark on the inside door. And so he walked up and he pushed that door open too. And he called my name. He was like, hey, Chaz. So he said he let himself in, and he started peeking around. And he came into my room, and he saw my room. He saw me laying on my bed, one leg up, one leg still down, just, sprawled out. Thought maybe I was crashed out. But he's like, man, I just saw this guy come in. There's no way he's already asleep. So he comes over, he starts trying to wake me up. He said he, pulled my arm and called my name, slapped me a couple times. At some point in time, he's seen the bottle, the empty bottle. And he knows that I'm troubled. He knows I'm troubled. I'm a troubled kid. He put 2 and 2 together real fast, and he ran back, and he got his sister. And his sister stole her mom's car, rushed over to my house, dragged me out, loaded me into the back seat, and took me to the hospital. Quite honest with y'all, it's probably the only reason why I'm alive today. Life is crazy. Life is crazy like that. You just never know. I'm telling you right now, you just never know. We're still friends to this day. We still talk. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he watches my channel too. But yeah. So I woke up in the hospital. I got up, I got my clothes, and I bounced. I didn't let them talk to me. I didn't answer no questions. I think they were supposed to release me to a parent or something. I told them my parents were out of town. I didn't have nobody to come and get me, and I'm leaving. And I left. I don't know how much lockdown they have kids nowadays who, things were a lot different back then. They have that on record. They have it on record somehow. I always had to do a special little interview every time I went to a new prison. That shit's on file, and somehow I didn't think they knew who I was for the longest time. When I first went into the ER room tonight, I passed a kid, maybe 15, 16 years old. He looked native. He was sitting on a gurney that's like sitting up, and he's wrapped up in a blanket, and he's sweating, shaking, looks sick. I looked at him on my way to my girl's room, and I thought to myself, damn, I wonder what he did to get here. That could have been me. Somebody probably walked by me and thought the exact same thing. Life's crazy out there, man. Things have a way of going full circle. I don't like hospitals. I don't like being inside of them. Death is in those hallways. But yeah, I thought I'd share a story with you all tonight. If you liked it, something from my past, not prison related, go ahead, drop a like, leave a comment, give me some ideas, what other stories you guys want to hear. Until then, be thankful for your health. Be thankful for every day that you wake up and you're not in pain. Be thankful for every time you draw breath, because you just never know.